both a profit and a difference. Now, under the arrangement, most of the shop's profits will stay in Harlem, and most of the jobs will be filled by the homeless. So it's something nice happening.
Nice program and real good ice cream, too. On tomorrow's Live at 5, we'll meet a lucky Bondurant woman who won a backyard blockbuster barbecue. Ed will be there live, and he'll give us the weather from there and all those pork chops.
Also tomorrow, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, hoping for a preview of their big performance tomorrow night.
All right, time now, nightly news.
The U.S. turns up the military heat on Saddam, even though he has blinked. More opportunities for the disabled with new work rules in America. And the Dream Team moving through the Olympics like a rock and roll all-star band.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. In the Middle East tonight, we're back to a game of high-stakes chicken, with President Bush and Saddam Hussein once again trying to force each other off the road. Saddam has agreed to let UN inspectors determine whether he is hiding military weapons, but on his terms. And for his part, President Bush is turning more guns on Iraq. We have NBC's Tom Aspel in Baghdad tonight. Fred Francis is at the Pentagon. But Tom, let's begin with you.
Tom, Iraqis are being told that their sovereignty remains intact, but that the country is complying with the ceasefire regulations.
Saddam Hussein can afford to laugh. In getting the UN to change the composition of the inspection team searching government buildings here, he can claim a victory. He was on television rewarding his closest advisors with service medals at the very moment the West found out he'd backed down once again. Yet to the Iraqis, this man is stronger than ever. Deputy Prime Minister Tariq Aziz handled the spin here tonight in an Iraqi TV program. He went through Iraq's version of the crisis and said George Bush had escalated the events only to boost his popularity ratings in the U.S. before the elections. The UN suspects the Ministry of Agriculture may have contained information on Iraq's nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons programs. If so, the relatively relaxed attitude of the ministry's security men could mean any secret files stored here have already been removed. Although the bitterness about strangers being allowed inside Iraqi government offices still lingers. The UN's Rolf Ekeus says he doesn't expect to find much.
I have to say that we are quite pessimistic now about making any major catch at that facility.
The West has the whip hand here because sanctions are killing this country. The majority have no work and no money. The government just manages to feed them under a strict rationing program. Saddam Hussein appears as a hero here for compromising with the West to prevent a military attack on his people. They expect him to bring back the days of prosperity Iraq enjoyed before it invaded Kuwait. Every day of sanctions means more pressure on him to perform.
Saddam Hussein is well aware George Bush wants him overthrown. If it's a personal battle between the two leaders, well, here in Iraq, a land where the people hear only what Saddam Hussein wants them to hear, Saddam Hussein is well ahead. Tom?
Thanks, Tom Aspel, tonight in Baghdad. And now let's go to Fred Francis at the Pentagon. Fred, the president tonight met with his national security advisors, and he had aircraft carriers on the move today. What's the message in all of this?
Tom, the Bush administration is moving forces based on the message, you can't trust Saddam, period. The carrier Kennedy, with 9 warships, 2 submarines, and 8,000 sailors and airmen, is expected to go through the Suez Canal within 10 days. A Patriot missile battery is being sent from Germany to Kuwait. Intelligence sources are sure Saddam still has hidden Scud missiles. Officials say overwhelming firepower from attack aircraft and cruise missiles must be on hand the next time UN efforts are frustrated by Saddam's intransigence. Saddam has demonstrated a flair for embarrassing Washington and its allies. And as the GOP convention nears, one official said, this administration is not going to appear inept or hogtied. Bush, on the stump today, took pains to tell voters that he has the will when called with bad news to stop a bully.
And the American people need to know that the man who answers that phone has the experience, the seasoning, the guts to do the right thing.
That means Saddam must stop a long list of violations found by UN inspectors and analysts, stop concealing weapons and plans, recognize UN border decisions, account for missing people, return stolen Kuwaiti property, allow UN staffers open access, halt flights of Iraqi warplanes, and end a blockade of Kurds in the north. Theoretically, any of those violations is enough to launch cruise missiles on punitive strikes. but administration officials fear that none are solid enough, in the public's view, to restart the war. Yet it's welcome for President Bush to have Saddam the boogeyman to kick around when things are so dismal on the domestic front. Tom?
Thank you, Fred Francis. And speaking of that, NBC White House correspondent John Cochran has just returned to Washington with President Bush from a day on the campaign trail, and the president was talking tough about Iraq. John, how do they calculate that will help him in domestic politics?
Tom, Bush advisors feel that in any game of who do you trust on foreign policy, George Bush comes out the winner. And they think a hint of war reminds voters that Bill Clinton has no experience in this sort of thing. So a hint of war helps George Bush. But maybe war itself doesn't, because voters are so smart and so cynical this year that if George Bush starts dropping bombs, they may suspect he's doing it to gain re-election.
Does this mean they're going to step up the attacks on Bill Clinton and his absence of foreign policy experience?
Oh, they're already doing it. Yesterday, Clinton said the United States should be more aggressive in trying to get the United Nations to order airstrikes on anyone in Yugoslavia who's preventing relief supplies reaching people in Sarajevo, for example. Today, Marlon Fitzwater, the president's spokesman, said that shows Clinton is reckless and just not prepared to run foreign policy. Tom?
Thank you. John Cochran at the White House tonight. And when Nightly News continues in a moment, the president and Governor Clinton and how they differ on fixing welfare in this country.
I was really downing those tablets. Come on, they're not candy. I started to think there was something really wrong with my stomach. Was I relieved when my doctor told me to try a new antacid tablet.
Introducing Mylanta tablets, shown to neutralize more stomach acid than the leading tablet.
Unbelievable.
New Mylanta tablets.
My doctor said Mylanta.
Nighttime, one of the worst times for pain. Minor arthritis pain, muscle aches, pain that seems to go on. That's why you need Ultra Strength Bengay, the strongest Bengay ever. You can say goodnight to your pain with Ultra Strength Bengay.
Lots of margarines say they have a buttery taste even when there's no butter in them. Kraft Touch-A-Butter spread has creamy, rich butter in it. Just a touch. Kraft Touch-A-Butter. A touch of real butter makes a real difference.
The welfare debate was front and center on the campaign trail today. What can the government afford to help the less fortunate? NBC's Andrea Mitchell tonight in Los Angeles tells where the candidates are standing on this. Andrea?
Tom, Republicans have often used welfare to make the middle class angry at the poor and at Democrats who support social programs. George Bush opened this year's welfare debate today, but on welfare, Bill Clinton is no ordinary Democrat. In Wisconsin, Bush okayed a state plan to pay lower welfare benefits to newcomers to discourage people from moving there to take advantage of Wisconsin's relatively high benefits.
I believe we can no longer afford the existing welfare system, and our recipients can't afford to be dependent on government for their livelihood, and our taxpayers can't afford to pay the welfare bill.
Bush would permit welfare recipients to earn more money before losing benefits, but he would also require them to get jobs or lose their benefits. And he would deny benefits to some women who have more children. If Bush hopes to use the welfare issue against Clinton, he'll find that the Democratic nominee is ready for him.
But I can see it coming right down the track. That's their wedge issue. Family values, welfare. And when people in this election try to put on yesterday's broken record that sticks at the same old place in the song. Tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and spend.
Unlike traditional Democrats and like Bush, Clinton would require welfare recipients to get jobs or lose benefits after 2 years. But he would provide public service jobs if they can't find other work, would provide job training for the poor, and increase tax breaks for the working poor.
I say to you, we ought to end welfare as we know it. It ought to be a second chance, not a way of life. But to do it, you have to liberate people. You have to educate them and train them and liberate their kids. Then you can require them to take jobs.
George Bush has supported state initiatives on welfare, but he has never proposed a national welfare reform plan. In Arkansas, Bill Clinton started a program to train women for work to get them off welfare. Results have been positive but slow, especially for those who have spent the longest time on the welfare rolls. What about the expense?
You spend more on education, but you save more on welfare payments, so it depends on how quickly you move them from welfare to work.
No matter how different Bill Clinton is from previous Democratic nominees, the Republicans are still expected to hammer him on the welfare issue. Tom?
Thank you, Andrea. This, of course, is the beginning of a new work week, and there is a new law. It's considered to be the most important civil rights measure since the 1960s. It's called the Americans with Disabilities Act. More on this far-reaching law tonight from NBC's Mike Betcher.
Ready or not, here they come. 14 million working-age disabled Americans, an estimated 70% of them unemployed, now don't have to take no for an answer. When Mike DeGrees completes his computer training class, by law, a potential employer will have to look past his amputated leg.
My mind still works. That's all I need.
The new law does not set hiring quotas, but if and when the disabled are hired, companies are required to accommodate their disabilities.
It might be just adding a few more switches to the computer that's to be needed so that individual can work.
It can cost a little, and it can cost a lot. Besides the 500,000 American businesses which must comply with the new law, cities also must accommodate the disabled.
Do I not have a right to get on a bus whenever I want to? I didn't ask to be disabled.
Gary Skoning, who will represent some of America's largest corporations in court if they don't comply, believes his clients have gotten the message.
Attitudes are very hard to legislate out of existence, but practices and employment patterns and the actual day-to-day operations of a company will be changed.
But how quick the change? Not overnight, believes Larry Williams, who started his own business when no one would hire a blind man with a finance degree. Bias dies hard, though. Williams, who with the aid of a directional tone is a 50% hoop shooter, uses a game of horse with the odds equaled by a blindfold to shatter can't-do perception.
You came out of college thinking you could do anything, and you went into a corporate world that thought you could do very little.
Right. They said no good, you know, so you can't stop there. You got to just look for other alternatives.
Today, there is an alternative. He doesn't need a basket to prove his point. The law should do it for him. Mike Betcher, NBC News, Chicago.
In economic news tonight, sales of previously owned homes fell sharply in June. That was the third straight monthly drop, but lower mortgage rates are expected to reverse this for the month of July. On Wall Street, stocks were down slightly today in moderate trade.
Stop! This Charmin's not squeezably soft.
Maybe the fluffer broke down.
Oh, no. We fluffed every sheet of Charmin for a deep-down squeezable softness.
So if it's not squeezable...
It's not Charmin.
Hey, what's this?
That's it. You fixed the fluffer. It's squeezable again.
So is this cheap, new potpourri scented Charmin. The scent's put on the core, not the paper.
Makes sense to me.
Charmin's so pleasable.
Because it's so squeezable.
Your routine, rugged, grueling, day after day. It's even harder when athlete's foot routinely comes back. But today, there's prescription strength Lotrimin AF. Many types of fungus can cause athlete's foot. But Lotrimin AF is a broad spectrum medicine, so it kills them all. No wonder it's the brand most recommended by doctors. So while there's no finish line for you, there is for your athlete's foot. Lotrimin AF.
Cleaning, shining, and disinfecting, nothing outperforms us in the bathroom. Dow Bathroom Cleaner, starring Scrubbing Bubbles. We work hard so you don't have to.
Do you get diarrhea too?
Diarrhea sneaks upon you when you least expect it. I take Kaopectate, and it works. Kaopectate stops the diarrhea fast. It really does. I guarantee it.
On America Close Up tonight, that heart-stopping moment when the salesman checks your credit rating, which too often, it turns out, is inaccurate or out of date. The House could begin debate on tougher credit protection laws this week. In a 1988 study of 9 million consumers who obtained their credit reports, 1/3 said they found mistakes. NBC's chief financial correspondent Mike Jensen tonight begins his report in Rockville, Maryland.
This is the Maryland home of Robert Corby, a 65-year-old retired federal employee. Corby tried to borrow $2,000 to put vinyl siding on his house. He was turned down after the siding company checked with the local credit bureau, which said it had some unanswered questions about Corby.
One about my wife, Ann. Another about the IRS lien I had against me. Also about the addresses. I lived in Fairfax, Virginia.
Corby was bewildered by the questions. First off, he doesn't have a wife. He's been a widower for 17 years. Also, his late wife was named Marjorie, not Ann. Contrary to this credit report, there was no IRS lien, and he never lived in Fairfax, Virginia. It gets worse. His credit report said he owed $101,000 on his mortgage, but the biggest mortgage he ever had on his house was $14,000, and that was paid off years ago. There were so many mistakes he couldn't believe it.
90% erroneous. It's just false information.
Corby wrote repeatedly to Equifax, the credit company that compiled his reports, trying to set the record straight. Equifax then sent him not one, but 3 different credit reports about him that contained most of the same mistakes and some new ones. Now he supposedly had 2 big mortgages and a Visa credit card and a current employer. None of that was true.
It's just very difficult to understand how any organization can get so much information completely wrong.
Equifax finally admitted its mistakes, but it took Robert Corby 8 months to straighten things out. And while his case is worse than most, it's far from unique. The Federal Trade Commission got almost 10,000 complaints about credit reports last year, more than on any other matter. Consider the case of Norwich, Vermont, where 1,400 residents were identified as deadbeats last year by another big credit company, TRW, when a researcher mistakenly copied from the wrong book and listed every one of the town's taxpayers as delinquent. The mistake was so flagrant that Vermont Governor Howard Dean went to Norwich to sign a tough new credit reporting bill into law last month. It gives people in Vermont a free credit report, and no one can look at their credit reports without permission. Those state reforms, however, would be killed by a federal bill now being considered by Congress. It was designed to strengthen consumer rights, but has been gutted by credit industry lobbyists, according to some congressmen.
If this bill passes as is without a change, all of those progressive states will have their laws rolled back. We can't tolerate that.
The credit bureaus say they're trying to do better with things like 800 numbers for complaints or free reports on request. But for Robert Corby and thousands of others, that doesn't do it. They wonder how the credit reporters can get things so wrong. Mike Jensen, NBC News, New York.
As a consumer, you should know that you are entitled to a free copy of your credit report if it is used in denying you credit. If there's a mistake, credit reporting companies say they will try to correct it within 30 days.
The makers of Dimetapp know it's important for allergy and cold sufferers to trust their medication. Doctors and pharmacists have trusted the Dimetapp brand for safe, effective relief for 30 years. You can trust Dimetapp Extend tabs for 12 hours of allergy relief. And if you're concerned about drowsiness, Dimetapp contains one of the least sedating, non-prescription antihistamines. Trust Dimetapp, the #1 doctor-recommended antihistamine decongestant non-prescription formula.
To fight the effects of corrosion, the body of the Buick Regal has been built with two-side galvanized steel that goes beyond what most car makers use. Beyond Honda, beyond Toyota. In fact, all Buicks are warranted against outer body rust-through for 6 years or 100,000 miles. And that's a promise you don't have to take with a grain of salt.
Listen, athlete's foot fungus grows beneath the surface of your skin. To cure it, you've got to get down to the root of the problem. You need Micatin.
Micatin penetrates the surface of your skin with miconazole to cure athlete's foot where it grows. Step up to the mic. Micatin.
If you took the most effective diarrhea medicine and shaped it into a caplet, you'd have Imodium AD caplets, the only caplet that often stops diarrhea in one dose. Imodium AD caplets, the original prescription for one-dose relief.
Now you don't need a prescription to get prescription strength medicine for itches and rashes. Introducing new maximum strength Cortaid. Now with twice the healing medicine. New maximum strength Cortaid. Prescription strength without a prescription.
Why are these people smiling? They've got Polident for partials with the power to clean the pearly part and the metal part in just 5 minutes. So get Polident for partials, because, hey, it's good looking on almost everybody.
Here's a quick check now of some of today's other news from around the world. Refugees by the trainload crowd the Bosnian border. They want into Germany, which has already absorbed more than 200,000 of them. Germany says other countries must also help out. Hail, hail, the gang's all here and not a lot of laughs. Charles and Diana, Queen Elizabeth, Prince Philip, Prime Minister John Major, and his 4 living predecessors, all honoring the Queen on her 40th year on the throne. Back in this country, hundreds of striking drivers blocked delivery of Pittsburgh's newspapers. Printed for the first time since May, most of the papers didn't make it past the strikers today. In Los Angeles, a big boost today for minority contractors. General Motors and its Hughes aircraft subsidiary said they will use more of them in rebuilding the riot areas. In Koreatown, however, the road back is paved mostly with bitterness. NBC's Keith Morrison tonight.
In a city of ethnic solitudes, a place rent along lines of color, the Koreans rage alone.
It's not our fault to lose the business. A lot of people burned us out, and now they want to take it away.
Most every day, they march the steps of City Hall and other government agencies, demanding reparations for riot damage. This once most enthusiastic group of new Americans now embittered victims, railing against a system that isn't helping, that they don't understand.
Why? You know? I don't know. Why? Why Korean people, why?
It seems a long time ago when Jenny Lee, her store crammed with Mother's Day clothes, lost it all in a moment of madness.
Everybody hates them, that's why. They charge too much money.
Even before, the hate she felt around her family's solitude had confused her, but never stopped her boundless belief that this was a place in which she could succeed. No insurance. She didn't know she needed it. And now?
But right now, government, they don't give nothing.
Today, her store is full again and open, but none of it is hers. It's all on credit. And here it all only because her family in Korea saw what happened and sent money to get her started again.
Almost 10,000, almost. They sent, for me.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, wonderful.
But what has it done for a family that left a good life in Korea, hoping to find a better one here?
They lost a lot of their love for this country. They lost a lot of motivation. Top that off, they lost about $150,000 in assets, in money.
And every night she wakes up in fear. Will it happen again? Down the street are big American stores that didn't open again. And so she is back in business. But now it's for her children, she says. Maybe they can dream. Keith Morrison, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And when NBC Nightly News continues, they're more than a dream team at the Olympics. They're the biggest stars of all, maybe of all time.
In our universe, there is always the unknown, the unpredictable. All we can do is prepare for it.
AT&T is now installing Fast Start. It can detect a cable cut instantly, so 800 calls can get back in minutes instead of hours.
We can send flowers for any occasion, anywhere, but only if our 800 service is up and running. Our 800 service isn't just a phone line, it's a lifeline.
I miss you.
AT&T has the most reliable 800 service, period.
AT&T. Call us.
Hot coffee and steak in front of strangers at 30,000 feet? Not till I switched. Now I fix it and forget it.
That's good. When people are watching you this closely, you just can't be worried about your dentures. That's why I Fixident and forget it.
Fixident holds stronger than any other adhesive. It even stands up to the hottest liquids.
Taste it, Grandpa.
He never would have tried this with his old adhesive.
For the strongest hold you can get, Fix-It-Dent and forget it.
Knock out the flea and tick problem for good. Hit him with the old 1-2 combination punch from Hart's. Get rid of them with the Hart's 2-in-1 Rib Flea Shampoo. Those tough bubbles knock out fleas and ticks while leaving Rocky looking and smelling like a champ. Follow through with the Hart's 2-in-1 Collar. It stops fleas and ticks dead for up to 5 months, even if it gets wet. Hart's 2-in-1 Rib Flea Shampoo and a Hart's 2-in-1 Collar. That's the Hart's 1-2 punch. It's murder on fleas and ticks. Hart's, everything good for your pet.
Why Centrum Silver? Because you're over 50 and you're just hitting your stride. Centrum Silver vitamins. Because the latest scientific research about changing nutritional needs after 50 is built in. Centrum Silver. It's a great time to be silver.
Before you freeze, remember this rule of thumb. Get Ziploc brand freezer bags with the gripper zipper. Tough, tiny teeth you can feel gripping, so you know freshness is locked in, freezer burns out. Do like me. Protect your ears. There's only one Ziploc.
We're not out here to try to fool you, of course. It is no secret that many of the events that you see nightly on NBC's Olympic coverage did occur earlier in the day. So for those of you who want to maintain the suspense of sports, turn down the volume on your set right now and keep it down until you see the first pictures of the Dream Team. Okay? In the medal race, the United States now is tied with China at 10, 3 of them gold. And the men's basketball team continues to roll, beating Croatia 103-70. That Dream Team is like the basketball equivalent of the greatest rock and roll band ever. NBC's Dennis Murphy on the Victory Tour.
If you think they'll even stop and wave as they leave their $800 a day hotel suites, you're dreaming. Just quick glimpses of heroes from T-shirts. The best. This is rock star stuff, cops and barricades. Every kid in Barcelona has seen the big guys on TV.
Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson are the best.
Say, 3-point spread.
At the arena, scalpers are getting $200 for an exhibition rout against victim number 1.
We're probably the only Angolans here, and there are no tickets for us.
That's because the whole world speaks American basketball, the pros.
Magic Johnson, Larry Bird.
So it wasn't much of a game. Angola seemed to stall at 7 points, but with Magic Johnson driving, passing like this to Larry Bird, it turned into an Olympic demonstration sport, performance art basketball. The Dreamers scored 31 points in a row against overwhelmed competitors, clearly in deep REM sleep. And if the bar across the street was as close as you could get after 4,000 miles, it didn't seem to matter. There are some here who don't believe in Magic and the special attention he and his teammates get. Their full-court press to get out of the Athletes Village Credential Center was interpreted by some as a lack of Olympic fellowship.
If we stayed in the village, it would be a nightmare in terms of autographs, picture taking, pins passing.
The Dream Team towers over these Olympics. The only thing that could taint their gold medal gimme is if the fans get a whiff of too much arrogance. Like Charles Barkley's heavy elbows against the freshman class.
We don't need to do that to compete at this level.
To compete at this level with their talent, they could fax it in. They beat Angola 116-48, and the customers loved it.
USA #1, always. As good as advertised.
We knew it would be a blowout.
Anyway, but
it was just, it was the chance of a lifetime to see that kind of people playing basketball on the same team.
Not suspenseful, but still a real rim hanger. Dennis Murphy, NBC News, Barcelona.
That's Nightly News for this Monday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. The Dream Team opens tonight's Olympic coverage here on NBC at 7:30 Eastern Time. I'll see you back here tomorrow night.
Just ahead on your 24-hour news source.
More bones and a continuing controversy coming to the surface today at the Glen Oaks Golf Course Project in West Des Moines. I'm Jim Strickland. The story next.
Free bus rides for some Des Moines residents sparks controversy at tonight's City Council meeting.
And that's not the only controversial issue here today. Proponents of the Police Review Board were back demanding to be heard. I'm Mary Mills. I'll have a live report.
These stories, Gary says more rain on the way.
And Rick with Olympic results all coming up next.
At Big Sur Waterbeds, this waterbed sells for just $225.99. How do we sell it for so little? Simple. We own the factory. That's how we keep quality high and prices low. $225.99 also buys the Oakhurst, the New York, the Balboa, this daybed, the Chantel, the Sedona, and more. Great comfort and factory direct savings from Big Sur Waterbeds, America's largest. 3715 Merle Hay Road at Douglas in Des Moines.
Buick Summer Sell Down.
The deals are heating up during the big summer sell down at your Quality Buick dealer.
Turn up your savings with a new Park Avenue for as little as $399 a month.
Get a hot $1,000 cash back on LeSabre, up to $1,500 cash back on Regal.
Or choose financing as low as 2.9% on the full Buick line.
But summer sell down 92 price savings won't last long.
Hurry to your nearest Quality Buick dealer.
Buick Summer Sell Down.
Think about some of your toughest stains. Your most difficult. Your most painful. For these, you might think of trying a pre-treater.
Think again of Era Plus. Here's why. This pre-treater can't beat this grass stain, even with detergent. But watch Era power through with just a spray of water. So when you think of stains, think of this, Era Plus, the power tool for stains.
Live from WHO TV 13, where the news comes first 24 hours a day. John Bachman, Kim Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with the weather. This is News Center 13 at 6.
A trowel in one hand, a paper bag in the other, the state archaeologists find more Indian bones at a West Des Moines construction site. And Des Moines police head into City Hall preparing for another protest over a citizens review board. Good evening. Thanks for being with us. A live report on that protest in just a moment, but first, they found what they were looking for.
Several more Indian bones from an ancient burial site unearthed by developers of the Glen Oaks Golf Course project. News Center 13's Jim Strickland says today's discovery has the governor's liaison for Indian Affairs demanding action. Jim? That's right, John. The governor's liaison says she wants work stopped permanently on the hillside where the bones were found. They're in search of history, and they're finding it.
There's a bone right here.
The state archaeologist was on site finding more bones from the same burial site first unearthed in the Glen Oaks development last week. Tiny bits, the remains of an ancient culture. Maria Pearson, a Sioux Indian, is the governor's liaison for Indian Affairs.
I'm heartsick at seeing this, to think that they would, in this day and age in Iowa, who is the leading state in the protection of our ancient burials, that we would have a site that is desecrated this badly.
State archaeologist Bill Green says such a find should not be a surprise on such a majestic spot.
A lot of the spots that ancient people preferred for their villages and burial sites are the same spots that people today prefer also.
Project spokesman Darrell Ball says in his 35 years in developing, he has never come across a case like this. And while he has been taken completely by surprise, Ball says the developers will comply with whatever Green recommends. Pearson has a suggestion.
I think this hill should be set aside as a monument to those forgotten Indian people that were in this state.
Now, the developers say the hillside in question would house about 6 residential lots. They say while it is not absolutely vital that that hillside be developed, they are certainly planning on it. Bill Green, the state archaeologist, is expected tomorrow to render a decision on when the construction crews can go back on that hillside, if they ever can at all. Okay, thank you very much, Jim Strickland. Former Des Moines police officer Tom Van Bali wants 2 handguns returned to him. The guns were seized from Van Bali during a domestic disturbance at his Pleasant Hill home last December. A hearing Friday will decide whether county officials get to keep the guns. Van Bali received a deferred judgment on charges of domestic abuse and interfering with police.
The controversial issue of a citizens' police review board sparking a protest again tonight at Des Moines City Council meeting. News Center 13's Mary Mills joins us now from City Hall with the latest. Mary?
Well, Kim, it's been about a month and a half since the City Council voted down that citizen review board, and today the issue is just as heated as it was back then. Proponents of the review board say they refuse to give up. In fact, they plan on stepping up the heat.
And believe me, if they do not act, they will be confronted with a crisis.
Community activist Kalanji Sadiq and the 24 others gathered here won't say what that crisis is. They'll only say they're adamant about a police review board. As Sadiq and others laid out their demands, a half-dozen police officers headed inside. They were preparing for this, more civil disobedience. Last month, Sadiq was among those arrested for disorderly conduct after protesting the council's inaction. Today, there were no arrests, just a silent protest. The demonstrators held signs with the words "Citizen Review." They promised to do more. But Councilman Tom Velasquez says it won't do any good.
The deadline was June 15th. The council voted 7-0 in favor of no review board. That's the deadline. That's the only deadline I'm aware of.
Now, Sadiq and others say at this point they simply want to meet with the entire council, maybe bring in a mediator. Sadiq has also asked the U.S. Civil Rights Commission to get involved. But again, at this point, the council says it's a done matter. They're finished talking about it. Kim and John?
Thank you, Mary, very much. Also tonight, the City Council taking up a proposal to provide free bus service for low-income residents who live in the model cities.
As Scott Pope reports, the plan already has plenty of critics and a hefty price tag.
The program is the brainchild of City Councilman Tom Velasquez, who calls it the answer to a growing need.
Well, things that we can do to get them to their jobs, get them to work, help them find jobs, get them to medical appointments, prenatal care, things like that, that can only better the community.
Martha Walden is the type of person this program is designed to help. The problem is she lives in the wrong neighborhood.
If they're going to be fair about the bus fare, it should be all over the city. It should be citywide, because of the fact there's people over here in this part of this inner city that need it just like any other part of the city.
Councilman Mike McPherson feels the same way.
I think we can operate a pilot program on some sort of limited fashion in a number of different areas throughout the community rather than just one small area.
Cost is another concern. Under the proposal, the city and MTA would provide $150,000 in loans that would be paid back by the end of next year. Another $50,000 would come from federal grants, and the remaining $150,000 would come from the business community in the form of donations, for a grand total of $350,000. The worst-case scenario, the city of Des Moines could be on the hook for $300,000. Councilman Archie Brooks says that's unacceptable, and he won't approve it unless a way can be found to pay for it. If approved tonight, the program would go into effect September 1st, but it may take that long just to come up with a plan that everyone on the council can agree to. Scott Pope, News Center 13.
Now, tonight, we want to know what you think about free bus rides for area residents. Our In Touch question asks, would you support a city council proposal to provide free bus service for certain Des Moines residents? To vote, dial 246-5600, then punch category 8000 for further instructions. Now, here are results from our Live at 5 program. Those responding, 31% saying yes, they do support that proposal, 69% saying no. We'll have more results later on in this newscast.
In case you missed NBC Nightly News, we want to update you on the situation which seems to be escalating in the Middle East. Just one day after President Bush warned Saddam Hussein to comply with UN sanctions or pay the consequences, military movement is evident. A senior Pentagon official says Patriot missiles like these have been moved from Germany to Kuwait. These missiles garnered fame during the Gulf War by knocking down Iraqi Scud missiles. And officials say the USS John F. Kennedy battleship has left the Virgin Islands and is headed for the Mediterranean. This would place 3 battleships within striking range of Iraq. The governor says forget about a change on abortion from the GOP.
He says Republicans won't change their anti-abortion platform at next month's National Party Convention. The governor has told pro-choice Republicans that they won't have any luck pushing for change. The governor today also promised to prevent the closing of historical sites threatened by the state's budget crunch. And Mr. Branstad says he's working to mend fences with state workers after a year-long pay raise squabble.
My intention to spend more time just walking around in state government, visiting individually with employees in this effort to try to improve our productivity and to recognize that we're all part of the same team.
And the governor says he's willing to take suggestions on how he can do his job better.
He says the move is part of the healing process for state government.
Iowa again basking in summertime temperatures, but bug experts are warning us about this mosquito possibly turning up in our state. It can carry a dangerous disease. Details next.
Plus a quick look at the Olympics. Charles Barkley still drawing criticism in Barcelona.
Remodel your bath with help from Moen, Artesian, and Menards. Moen bath faucets are on sale now. They're easy to install and feature a lifetime limited warranty. This double-handle faucet is just $19.95. Add a splash of luxury with an Artesian Whirlpool on sale too. And save on this pedestal lab or this 3-piece tub.